I've been working as a hostess at Pittman's for 4 months. It's not what I dreamed of. But dreams don't pay rent. My name is Nina Garcia. I'm 28 years old. And I should be a chef, not a hostess, not greeting guests with a polished smile and a reservation list. But actually cooking, creating, making food that makes people close their eyes and remember their childhood. The way my grandmother did. Amelia Garcia. She died 3 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. Quick. Brutal. And I spent every dollar I had, and many I didn't, trying to save her. It didn't work. When she died, she left me 2 things: a mountain of medical debt that follows me like a shadow, and an instinct for cooking that I inherited in my bones. Grandma Amelia never went to culinary school, never trained under a famous chef, never even worked in a restaurant kitchen, at least not a fancy one. She worked in diners, places where the food was cheap and the hours were brutal. But she could make magic out of nothing. A handful of vegetables from the discount bin, some spices she bought in bulk from the Mexican grocery store on Lake Street, leftover chicken that most people would throw away. And somehow, 30 minutes later, you'd be eating something that tasted like love itself. She tried to teach me, for years, every weekend from the time I was 6 until I left for college. In her tiny kitchen in the apartment on Bloomington Avenue that smelled like garlic and cilantro and memories. "Nina, cooking isn't about recipes," she'd say, stirring a pot with one hand and adjusting the heat with practiced precision. Her hands were always moving, always creating. It's about feeling. You taste, you adjust, you listen to what the food is telling you. I listened. I learned. I learned that a pinch of cinnamon could transform a tomato sauce. That orange zest could brighten anything. That patience was the most important ingredient of all. But I never went to culinary school. Couldn't afford it. By the time I graduated from community college with a general studies degree that meant nothing, Grandma was already sick. The cancer moved fast. Diagnosis to hospice in 8 months. I spent those months by her side, watching her shrink, watching her hands, those strong, capable hands, become frail and weak. She died on a Tuesday morning in March. The night before, she had squeezed my hand, weakly, and whispered, "Keep cooking, mija. Promise me." "I promise, Grandma." But after she died, I couldn't. Every time I tried to cook, I'd smell her kitchen, hear her voice, and I'd break down. So I stopped. And when the medical bills piled up, $87,000 in debt that insurance didn't cover, I took the first job I could get that paid above minimum wage. Hostess at Pittman's, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. Have you ever felt like you were meant for something more but circumstances held you back? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more compelling stories about hidden talents, second chances, and legacies that refuse to die, hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss our next story. Vincent Pittman is a legend in the culinary world. Celebrity chef, Michelin-starred restaurateur. He built Pittman's from nothing. The story is famous. He started as a line cook in a rundown diner at 19, worked his way up through various kitchens, saved every penny, opened his own place at 30 with money borrowed from friends and family. That first restaurant failed within a year. The second one barely survived 2 years. But the third, Pittman's, exploded. Michelin star within 18 months, 2 stars by year 3. And now, at 52, he's on magazine covers, TV shows. His cookbook sold 500,000 copies. He's worth an estimated $400 million. To him, I'm just another hostess. There are 3 of us who rotate shifts. We're interchangeable, replaceable. Part of the ambiance, like the fresh flowers on every table or the candlelight that makes everyone look softer, younger, more beautiful than they really are. Which is fine. I don't need his attention. I need the paycheck. $18 an hour plus a cut of tips that comes out to about $32 an hour on good nights. It's the most I've ever made. Enough to make minimum payments on the medical debt. Enough to keep a roof over my head in a studio apartment that has heat issues and neighbors who fight at 2 a.m. But sometimes when I'm standing at the host stand during dinner service while the kitchen doors swing open, I catch the smells. Roasted duck with cherry gastrique, truffle risotto with porcini mushrooms, seared scallops with brown butter and capers, Wagyu beef with red wine reduction. And I think I could do that. I could cook like that. Maybe not at Michelin-star level, not yet. But I could learn. I have the instinct, the foundation. Grandma made sure of that. But I never say it out loud. Because hostesses don't become chefs. We're front of house. The kitchen is a different world. A world of culinary school graduates and stage programs in France and people who've been cooking professionally since they were 16. I'm 28. I have no formal training, no connections, no way in. So I smile. I seat guests. I answer the phone with the same cheerful greeting I've said 10,000 times. Thank you for calling Pittman's. This is Nina speaking. How may I assist you? And I try not to think about Grandma's kitchen, about what I could have been if circumstances had been different. It was a Tuesday evening in late October when everything changed. The restaurant was fully booked, as usual. Tuesday through Saturday were slammed. Sundays and Mondays were closed. Vincent's rule. Even great restaurants need to rest, he says. The usual crowd filled the dining room. Wealthy couples celebrating anniversaries. Business dinners where deals were made over $200 bottles of wine. Groups of friends who treated a $300 per person meal like it was nothing. I was seating a party of 4, 2 couples, mid-50s, dripping in wealth, when I smelled it. Chicken broth, cinnamon, a hint of orange. I stopped mid-sentence. Your table is right this... The smell hit me harder, deeper, like a memory made physical. The woman I was speaking to looked at me with concern. Is everything all right? Yes, sorry, right this way. But my hands were shaking as I handed them menus and recited the specials. That smell. I knew that smell. After I seated them, I walked toward the kitchen. My heart was pounding, hands trembling. I stopped just outside the swinging doors. Servers rushed past me. Line cooks shouted orders in kitchen Spanish, the usual chaos of dinner service. But the smell was stronger here. Chicken soup, rich, golden, with that specific combination of spices that I'd never encountered anywhere except Grandma's kitchen. Caldo dorado, Grandma Amelia's caldo dorado. My throat tightened. My eyes stung. It was impossible. Grandma never wrote down that recipe. She'd tried once when I was in high school. I'd asked her to dictate it to me so I could make it myself someday. Mija, I don't know the measurements, she'd said, laughing. A little bit of this, a pinch of that. You have to feel it. But Grandma, what if I forget? She'd tapped my chest, right over my heart. You won't forget. It's in here, in your blood. When you need it, you'll remember. And she'd been right. I did remember. Every ingredient, every step. The exact moment when you add the cinnamon. Not at the beginning, but halfway through, after the broth has reduced slightly. The orange zest that goes in at the very end, so it stays bright and fresh. The Mexican bay leaf that you can only get from the Mercado on Lake Street. Nobody else made caldo like that. Nobody except Grandma. And now, somehow, it was being served at Pittman's. Nina. I turned. Vincent was standing there, watching me with those sharp gray eyes that missed nothing. He was in his chef's whites, sleeves rolled up. A small stain, probably tomato sauce, on his apron. His hair, silver now, was slightly disheveled from the heat of the kitchen. Are you all right? What's that smell? New item. We're testing it this week. Heritage comfort food. We're moving beyond just high-end molecular gastronomy, bringing in dishes with soul. Why? What's the dish called? Golden chicken broth. Caldo dorado. Simple, rustic, but elevated. Why are you asking? My stomach dropped. Can I see it? Vincent raised an eyebrow. You want to see a bowl of soup? Please. He studied me for a moment. His expression was hard to read. Vincent was always hard to read. Controlled, precise. Every movement deliberate, every word calculated. But something in my voice must have reached him. All right, come. The kitchen was controlled chaos. Servers shouted orders. Line cooks moved with the synchronized precision of a ballet company. The head chef, Dominic, a French-trained veteran with arms covered in burn scars, barked corrections in rapid-fire French and English. Vincent led me to the pass, where finished dishes waited for servers to pick up. A bowl sat there. Wide, shallow, ceramic, golden broth, crystal clear, shredded chicken breast, thin slices of carrot, perfectly uniform, fresh cilantro on top, a wedge of lime on the side. It looked simple, rustic, not at all like the usual Pittman's fare, which involved foams and gels and ingredients flown in from Japan. But I knew this dish. Can I taste it? Vincent looked surprised. Hostesses don't usually, please. Something in my voice, desperation maybe, made him nod. Dominic, spoon. The head chef handed me a clean spoon without question, though his expression was curious. I dipped the spoon into the broth, brought it to my lips. The first taste hit me like a physical blow. Cinnamon. Just a whisper. Not overpowering. Balanced perfectly with the chicken stock. Orange zest. Bright. Fresh. Garlic that had been roasted first, then added to the broth. A depth of flavor that came from simmering the bones for hours, not in a pressure cooker, but low and slow, the way Grandma always did it. And something else. Something most people would miss. A bay leaf. But not a regular bay leaf. Mexican bay leaf. Harder to find. Slightly different flavor. More herbal, less sharp. Exactly the way Grandma made it. My vision blurred. The kitchen sounds faded. For a moment, I was 8 years old again, sitting at Grandma's tiny formica table while she set a bowl in front of me. Eat, mija. This will make you feel better. I had the flu, fever, chills. But that soup, that exact soup, had made everything feel bearable. I set the spoon down. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped it. Sir, that's my grandmother's recipe. The kitchen went quiet. Just for a second. Servers paused. A line cook looked up from his station. Vincent's expression didn't change. Excuse me? That caldo. It's my grandmother's. Amelia Garcia. She never wrote it down. She never shared it with anyone except me. So how do you know it? Vincent's face went carefully blank. The same blank expression he used when a dish came back because a guest claimed it was oversalted, or when a critic wrote a lukewarm review. Controlled. Revealing nothing. It's a traditional recipe. Chicken soup is hardly unique. Not like this. My voice was rising. I didn't care. That's not traditional. That's specific. That's hers. Nina. She made this for me my entire life. When I was sick, when I was sad, when I needed to feel loved. I know every ingredient, every step. The exact moment when you add the orange zest, at the very end, so it doesn't lose its brightness. The way you roast the garlic first. The fact that you use Mexican bay leaf instead of regular because the flavor is softer. I stepped closer. And you're serving it in your restaurant like it's yours. Vincent's jaw tightened. Around us, the kitchen had gone completely silent. Servers stood frozen. Line cooks watched. Dominic had his arms crossed, eyes flicking between Vincent and me. I think you should get back to work, Vincent said quietly. Did you know her? Nina, did you know my grandmother? Silence. The kind of silence that's louder than any sound. Then, yes. The word hung in the air between us. Around us, whispers started, servers exchanging glances, Dominic looking shocked. How? Vincent looked away, looked at the bowl of soup, at the recipe he'd stolen. Not here, after service. Come to my office at 11. No, now. Nina, I have a restaurant to run. And I have a grandmother whose legacy you're stealing. Now. For a long moment, Vincent just stared at me. And for the first time since I'd started working here, I saw something other than cold control in his eyes. Guilt. Dominic, he said quietly, not looking away from me. You have the pass. Yes, chef. Vincent walked toward the back of the kitchen, toward his office. I followed. Vincent's office was small, cramped. Not at all what you'd expect for a billionaire celebrity chef. A desk, a chair, shelves crammed with cookbooks, binders, food magazines, a single photograph on the wall, Vincent shaking hands with some famous French chef at an awards ceremony. He sat down, gestured for me to sit across from him. I didn't. How did you know Grandma Amelia? Vincent didn't speak for a long moment, just looked at me with that unreadable expression. Then he opened a drawer in his desk, pulled out a worn notebook, set it on the desk between us. I recognized it immediately. The cover, faded red fabric, torn at the corners, the water stain on the bottom right, the way the pages were swollen from years of use in a steamy kitchen. That's hers, I whispered. That's Grandma's handwriting. Yes. How do you have it? Vincent opened the notebook. Pages and pages of Grandma's handwriting, slanted, careful, with little hearts over the eyes and smiley faces next to recipes she was especially proud of. Caldo dorado, albondigas en chipotle, arroz con leche, tamales de puerco, all the dishes from my childhood. She gave it to me, Vincent said quietly. 30 years ago. I was 18 years old, Vincent began. His voice was different now, softer, like he was reading from a script he'd memorized but never performed out loud. Angry, broke, working at a diner, Rose's Cafe on Lake Street. It's closed now, has been for 20 years. But back then, it was this tiny, run-down place that served breakfast and lunch to construction workers and old ladies from the neighborhood. He looked at the notebook. I hated my life, hated my job. My dad had kicked me out when I was 17, said I was lazy, ungrateful. I was living in a basement apartment with 3 other guys, sleeping on a mattress on the floor, eating ramen because it was all I could afford. I stayed silent. Your grandmother worked there. She was the line cook. 50 years old. Immigrant. Single mother. She was raising your mom and your uncle alone, working 2 jobs. Rosa's during the day, cleaning offices at night. My throat tightened. I knew this story. Grandma had told me versions of it when I was growing up. But she'd never mentioned Vincent. But she never complained, Vincent continued. Never looked tired, never looked bitter. She just cooked. And the food she made in that cramped, dirty kitchen was better than anything I'd ever tasted. She had a gift. She had more than a gift. She had soul. Vincent looked at me. I was terrible to her, rude, dismissive. I thought I was too good for that job, too good for that place. I was supposed to be something. And instead I was flipping eggs for $6 an hour. He paused. But she saw something in me. God knows why. I certainly didn't deserve it. She started teaching me, Vincent said. Little things at first. How to season properly, taste as you go, adjust constantly. How to build layers of flavor instead of just throwing everything in at once. How to respect ingredients, even cheap ones. He smiled slightly. It was the first time I'd ever seen Vincent smile like that. Soft. Nostalgic. I didn't want to learn, but she was patient, persistent. Every shift, she'd show me something new. How to properly dice an onion. How to make a roux without burning it. How to know when meat is done just by touching it. She taught me the same things, I said softly. I can imagine. Vincent looked at me. Because she loved teaching. She loved sharing what she knew. She used to say, "Cooking is meant to be passed down. Hoarded knowledge dies. Shared knowledge lives forever." I closed my eyes. That was Grandma. Exactly. One day, Vincent continued, I told her I wanted to be a real chef, not a diner cook. I wanted to go to culinary school, open my own restaurant someday, make food that mattered. What did she say? She didn't laugh. Most people did. But not her. She just looked at me and said, "Then learn everything. From everyone. Even from me." Vincent's voice cracked slightly. So I did. For 2 years I worked at Rosa's, and every shift she taught me. Everything she knew. Not just recipes, philosophy, the why behind the how, the soul behind the technique. He paused. And when I finally got accepted to culinary school, a scholarship, the only way I could afford it, she gave me this notebook. He touched the worn cover gently, reverently. She said, "Take this, use it, build something beautiful, and when you do, remember where it came from." I stared at him. So you took her recipes and built an empire. Yes. And you never gave her credit. Vincent's face crumpled, just for a second. Then he rebuilt the walls, composed himself. No, I didn't. When I opened my first restaurant, Vincent said, I used her recipes, modified them, elevated them, made them mine. But they were hers. The foundation of everything I built came from that notebook. Did she know? Yes. I invited her to the opening. She came. Brought your mom. Your mom must have been about 20 then. They both came, ate the food. And afterward, Amelia pulled me aside. She smiled at me, said she was proud. And you never thanked her publicly. No. Vincent's voice was barely a whisper. I was ashamed. Ashamed of what? Ashamed that I'd built my reputation on the back of an immigrant woman nobody had ever heard of. Ashamed that food critics were calling me a genius, a visionary, when really I was just borrowing. Ashamed that my success was built on her work, and I was too much of a coward to admit it. He looked at me. I told myself I'd do it someday. Give her credit. Put her name on the menu. Maybe even bring her in as a consultant. But years passed. My career exploded, and the longer I waited, the harder it became. How do you admit, 10 years into fame, that you're a fraud? She wasn't famous, I said quietly. She didn't need credit. She just needed you to acknowledge her. I know. Vincent's eyes were wet. I know that now. But I was young, stupid, selfish. She died 3 years ago. Vincent looked up sharply. What? Pancreatic cancer. It moved fast. 8 months from diagnosis to death. Vincent's face went gray. I spent every dollar I had trying to save her, I continued. My voice was shaking now, anger rising. Sold everything. Took out loans I'll never pay off. $87,000 in medical debt that follows me everywhere. And you used her recipes to become a millionaire. 400 million, Vincent said quietly. Net worth. And I'm sorry. I'm so deeply sorry, Nina. Sorry doesn't bring her back. I know. We sat in silence. Then Vincent said, I tried to find her 5 years ago. I wanted to finally do it. Put her name on everything, give her credit, share the wealth. But Rosa's had closed. I found an address in South Minneapolis. I drove there, knocked on the door. He paused. A young couple answered, said they'd bought the house 2 years earlier. Didn't know anything about the previous owner. That was after she moved in with me, I said. When she got sick. She couldn't live alone anymore. Vincent closed his eyes, and we stood in silence. I should have quit that night, walked out, never come back. But I didn't. Because as angry as I was, and I was furious, shaking with rage, part of me understood. Grandma would have forgiven him. She forgave everyone. It was her superpower, her curse. When my mom abandoned me at 16, just left one day with a boyfriend she barely knew, Grandma took me in without hesitation. And when my mom came back 3 years later, broke and pregnant and desperate, Grandma welcomed her back. No anger, no bitterness. "That's what love does, mija," she'd told me when I'd asked why she wasn't angry. "Love forgives. Always." And more than that, I needed this job, needed the money, needed the stability. The debt collectors didn't care about my feelings. The rent was due whether I was angry or not, so I stayed. But everything was different now. Vincent started talking to me after that. Really talking. Not like a boss to an employee. Like someone seeking forgiveness, seeking absolution. He'd pull me aside during slow moments, ask about Grandma, about her life, her cooking, her philosophy. "She used to say cooking was about love," I told him one afternoon. We were standing in the empty dining room after lunch service, before dinner prep started. That if you cooked with anger or resentment, people could taste it. Food absorbs emotion. Vincent nodded slowly. She told me the same thing. I didn't believe her then. Thought it was sentimental nonsense. But I do now. I've tasted dishes made by angry chefs. They're technically perfect, but they're missing something. Soul. That's what Grandma called it. Cocinando con alma. Cooking with soul. Vincent looked at me. "Do you cook?" "Not professionally. But you can." "Yes?" "Show me." It started small. Vincent invited me into the kitchen after hours. Told me to make something. Anything. The first time, my hands shook. I hadn't cooked, really cooked, since before Grandma died. Every time I'd tried, the grief had been too much. But Vincent waited. Patient. The way Grandma had been patient with him. "What do you want me to make?" "Whatever you want. Surprise me." I thought about it. Then I decided. Albondigas and chipotle. Meatballs in chipotle broth. One of Grandma's classics. I worked slowly, carefully. Ground beef mixed with rice, cilantro, mint. Rolled into perfect spheres. The broth, chipotle peppers blended with tomatoes, chicken stock, a hint of chocolate. Vincent watched without saying a word. When I finished, I ladled it into a bowl, garnished with cilantro and lime. He tasted it, closed his eyes, didn't speak for a full minute. Then, "That's extraordinary. It's Grandma's recipe." "No." He opened his eyes, looked at me. "It's yours. You added something." "What was it?" I hesitated. "Smoked paprika. Just a little. For depth." Vincent stared at me. "You have her instinct." "I don't have her training. Training is just repetition. Instinct is rare, and you have it." Over the next few weeks, Vincent kept pulling me into the kitchen after hours, testing me, challenging me. "Make something with these ingredients." He'd point to a random assortment on the counter. Mushrooms, cream, thyme, pasta. And I would, without thinking, without planning, just feeling my way through it. Listening to what the food was telling me, the way Grandma had taught me. Every time he'd taste it, and every time his expression would shift. Surprise, respect. Something close to awe. "You're wasted as a hostess," he said one night. "I don't have a degree. No culinary school, no formal training, no resume." Neither did Amelia, and she taught me more than Le Cordon Bleu ever could. Then came the night that changed everything. Vincent was creating a new tasting menu for the spring season. Something innovative, something that would get the food critics talking again. He wanted to include a modern take on heritage comfort food. Something unexpected, something with soul. "I want to honor her," he said one night. We were alone in the kitchen. Midnight. The rest of the staff long gone. Amelia, properly this time, but I don't know how. Everything I make feels like theft. I thought about it. Thought about Grandma. About her kitchen. About all the meals she'd made for me over the years. "Let me try something," I said. "What?" "Give me 3 days. Let me create a dish. If you like it, you can put it on the menu. If not, I'll go back to being a hostess and we'll never talk about this again." He smiled. Small. 3 days. Show me what you have. I spent 72 hours in that kitchen, most of it at night, after my hostess shifts ended. Vincent gave me full access, told the night security guard to let me in whenever I wanted. I experimented, failed, started over. I began with Grandma's caldo dorado, the base, the foundation. But I didn't want to just replicate it. Like I'd be doing the same thing he did, copying without innovating. I wanted to honor Grandma, but I also wanted to show what I could do, what she'd taught me to do, think, feel, listen to the food. So I deconstructed it, broke it down to its essential components and rebuilt it into something new. Chicken consommé, crystal clear. I spent 8 hours clarifying it, egg whites, mirepoix, constant attention. The result was a broth so clear you could read through it, infused with cinnamon, orange, and Mexican bay leaf. Delicate chicken dumplings, handmade. I must have made 50 before I got the thickness right. Thin enough to be delicate, thick enough to hold together. Filled with shredded chicken breast, mint, and cilantro. Crispy chicken skin on top, for texture. Fried until golden and shattered. Microgreens. Edible flowers. A drizzle of chili oil for heat. And at the center of the bowl, the crowning touch. A single orange supreme. Bright. Vibrant. The essence of Grandma's addition to the recipe. It looked like art. Like something from a magazine spread. Like something that belonged at Pittman's. But it tasted like home. When Vincent tasted it, he didn't speak for a full minute. Just sat there at the counter in the empty kitchen, spoon in hand, eyes closed. I watched him, nervous, terrified. This dish was everything. My grief, my love, my talent, all in one bowl. Then he opened his eyes. They were wet. "This is perfect." My breath caught. "Really?" "It's not just perfect. It's beyond." He looked at me. "You took Amelia's foundation and built something completely new. Something that honors her but is entirely yours. You didn't copy. You innovated." He set the spoon down, looked at me with an expression I'd never seen on his face before. Wonder. "You have a gift, a real gift, the kind of instinct that can't be taught." I didn't know what to say. "This is going on the menu," Vincent said, "as the signature item for the spring tasting menu, and you're going to be credited, not me, you. And there's something else I need to talk to you about." A week later, Vincent called me into his office during the slow period between lunch and dinner service. "Sit." I sat. He looked nervous. Vincent Pittman, celebrity chef, millionaire, Michelin-starred legend, looked nervous. "I've been thinking about what you said, about Amelia, about how I built everything on her foundation and never acknowledged it." "Vincent." "Let me finish." He took a breath. "I'm renaming the restaurant." I stared at him. "What?" "It's going to be called Amelia's. In honor of your grandmother, full rebrand, new menus, new signage, everything." My throat tightened. "You can't do that. This place is your legacy. My legacy is built on her work. It's time I acknowledge that publicly." He paused. "And there's something else." He slid a folder across the desk. "What's this?" "Partnership papers. I want to offer you 15% ownership of Amelia's." I couldn't breathe. "What?" I know 15% doesn't sound like much, but building a restaurant takes more than good food. It takes management, marketing, operations, financial planning, things you'll learn over time. but 15% of this restaurant is worth approximately $12 million. I felt dizzy. $12 million? It's what you're owed. What Amelia was owed. I can't bring her back. I can't give her what she deserved, but I can give it to you. Vincent, I can't accept. Yes, you can. And you will, because you earned it. Your dish is going on the menu. You're going to train as a chef. Properly. I'll cover the costs of culinary school. You'll work under Dominic. And in 3 years, you'll be running your own kitchen. Tears streamed down my face. Why are you doing this? Because your grandmother gave me everything. She saw potential in an angry kid who didn't deserve her kindness. And she changed my life. His voice cracked. I can't bring her back, but I can honor her by honoring you. I couldn't speak. Nina, you don't just have talent. You have her soul, her gift, her vision, and the world deserves to see it. 6 months later, the new sign went up. Amelia's, in honor of Amelia Garcia. Below it, smaller. Founded by Vincent Pittman. The rebrand was massive. New menus featuring heritage comfort food elevated to fine dining. Every dish credited to its inspiration. Amelia's recipes, reimagined with respect and innovation. And inside, on every wall, photos of Grandma, in her kitchen, smiling. Strong hands holding a wooden spoon, no longer invisible. My dish, Nina's caldo reimagined, was the centerpiece of the tasting menu. Critics went wild. The New York Times called it a perfect marriage of tradition and innovation. Food and Wine featured it on the cover. We got our 3rd Michelin star 6 months after the rebrand, but to me it was just Grandma, her love, her lessons, her legacy, finally visible, finally honored. On opening night of the rebranded Amelia's, Vincent pulled me aside before service. We were standing in the dining room, empty still, the calm before the storm. In 2 hours, this place would be packed with guests who'd waited months for reservations. Thank you, he said. For what? For forgiving me. For giving me a chance to make this right. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd carried guilt for 30 years. Who'd built an empire on stolen recipes and couldn't forgive himself. Grandma would have forgiven you a long time ago, I said. I know. But I needed to forgive myself first. And have you? He smiled. Sad. Small. I'm getting there. The first few months as a partner were overwhelming. I split my time between working the line under Dominic, who was a brutal teacher but a brilliant one, and learning the business side from Vincent. Profit margins, inventory management, vendor relationships, health code compliance, payroll, marketing strategies. It was exhausting. I'd come home to my studio apartment, which I could finally afford to heat properly, and collapse into bed, only to wake up at 5 a.m. to do it again. But I loved it. For the first time since Grandma died, I felt alive, like I had purpose. Like the debt that had been crushing me for 3 years was finally, slowly, becoming manageable. The 15% partnership meant I earned a percentage of profits. And with the rebrand, Amelia's was more profitable than Pittman's had ever been. Within 6 months, I'd paid off $40,000 of medical debt. Within a year, it was gone completely. I cried the day I made the final payment, sat in my apartment, stared at the bank statement that said 0.00 balance, and I whispered, I did it, Grandma. We did it. 1 year after the rebrand, Vincent announced he was stepping back from day-to-day operations. I'm not retiring, he clarified at the staff meeting. But I'm 60 now, and I've spent 45 years in kitchens. It's time to let new voices lead. He looked at me. Nina will be taking over as executive chef. Dominic will remain as head chef. But the vision, the menu, the direction of Amelia's, that's Nina's now. The staff applauded. Some looked skeptical. I was only 29, younger than most of the line cooks. But Dominic nodded his approval, and that was what mattered. After the meeting, Vincent pulled me aside. "Are you ready?" "No," I said honestly. "But I don't think anyone ever is." "Good answer." He smiled. "Amelia would be proud. You know that, right?" "I hope so." "I know so." That night, after service, I stood alone in the dining room. The walls were covered with photos of Grandma, young, old, smiling in her tiny kitchen on Bloomington Avenue, the kitchen where she'd taught me everything. I thought about her hands, strong, worn, always moving, always creating, and I looked at my own hands, scarred now from a year of working the line, burns from hot pans, cuts from sharp knives, the calluses that every chef earns, the same hands, the same instinct, building on her foundation, creating something new. She'd spent her life in the shadows, cooking in diners nobody remembered, cleaning offices at night, working 2 jobs to raise her kids alone, unrecognized, invisible, but not anymore. Her name was on the sign. Her face was on the walls. Her recipes were served to people who paid $400 for a tasting menu and left talking about the soul in the food. And I, her granddaughter, the girl she'd raised, the one she'd taught everything, was carrying on her legacy. Not by copying her, by honoring her, by taking what she'd given me and building something new, something that was hers and mine. Together,